What's good, y'all? Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Halfway through the week already. We have an F1 video, man. F1's deadliest drivers. Most deadly crash. Yeah, I just misread that. F1 drivers, most deadly crashes. That sounds better. So we have to check out, we have to see what's on. Shout out to my guy who didn't make the video. All credit goes to him. But shout out to man goes for recommended videos. Well, so I'm not sure what to expect. Should be a good one. Should be good one in general, stuff like that. No races weekend. So yeah. We have so we haven't had F1 in about like a week or so now. We won't have it until the end of the month. So I think we're like 2 more weeks away. Anyway, hope you guys are doing good. Amazing, stupendous, outstanding, absolutely terrific. Let's go ahead and let's just hop straight into the video, man. No spoilers, no wait,
Alonso
no time.
rolling in the
Let's
air
just get
to
it,
having
man.
a tire almost crush Lewis Hamilton during his race, let's check out the biggest F1 crashes that the current grid has ever seen. Starting off with Lando Norris, who chased glory but is drowned in the rain. So get this, it was qualifying day at Spa, and if things couldn't get more unfortunate, it was raining cats and dogs. So with backup plans and all, Lando Norris shifted from inters to wet tires to accommodate his drive. Now, still in his somewhat rookie years, Norris wasn't able to make the analysis that Aston Martin driver Sebastian Vettel did, and after seeing how hard it was raining, he immediately called for the session to be red flagged. But despite that, the qualifying session went on, and Norris started his drive to a terrific crash.
Jesus.
So when Lando was on his first flying lap, he lost full control of his car at Eau Rouge and went straight into the barrier at high speed. If that doesn't sound scary enough, let me tell you that the impact was so harsh that 3 out of 4 of his tires were completely obliterated. And then, after the damage had been done, FIA called the session to be red flagged. And
Dude, racing in the rain in general is probably still one of the most scariest things to do. Like, it's already hard enough racing in F1, but now it's raining. You add that as well. Like, you can barely see, like, oh, dude,
boy, oh boy, when
Jeez.
Vettel stopped near Lando's crash to check up on him, we could see the fumes blowing out of his ear. I mean, this could have been avoided had they red flagged the session like Vettel said. But I guess a race has to go on.
The FIA.
That's something this particular Mexican would agree with.
Yeah, I mean, I've been better, yeah, but I'm good. I think just a bit bruised. Obviously, it was quite a big impact, and I think my body's just been thrown around a little bit. But no, I'm good. I'm I think ready to race for tomorrow.
Like Sergio Perez loves the racetrack where he almost met his doom. Usually, when you suffer a crash like the one Checo did, you'd be traumatized every time you think about it. But you know, Checo's just built different. This crash was a monstrous one, a crash that could have cost him his life. So what happened was, it was the qualifying day at the Monaco Grand Prix, and Perez was zooming through that street circuit in his debut season. So obviously he wouldn't be as familiar as the other experienced drivers would be. So he exits the tunnel at 175 miles per hour and boom, crashed at the chicane. And get this, guys, there was no halo to protect drivers back then. So his Sauber was absolutely wrecked when it hit the crash barrier. But that's not where it ended for the Mexican, because this one really went on a small ride after his first crash. He continued sliding until he had a second massive side-on impact with another barrier. Like, geez, after all of this, you still love that chicane, Checo? I mean, I don't blame him, because he probably...
Now, I've never seen when, like, incidents happen, obviously you have, like, the medical crew, like, you know, blocking, like, from people seeing it, which I respect. I honestly respect that. I don't think, you know, depending on how bad a crash is or injury is, you really want to see, like, people, like, seeing it, you know what I mean? Then we saw that in the Euros when Christian Eriksen collapsed, stuff like that, and they had, like, all the players surrounding him, like, it's, you know, it's kind of like a privacy type of thing. But for it to be that bad, and when jeez. Like, he was gliding for a minute. Like, he was slick gliding for a minute towards the wall. And my man
doesn't
just
remember the pain or the
capitulated
experience as much because his crash gave him a concussion. And you may think a few broken ribs, right? Wrong. He only had a sprained thigh. And to him, the biggest loss was that he had to sit out of the Monaco race. Now, when we say that miracles do happen in Formula One,
doctors found Sergio had
I would
suffered
just,
concussion
you know,
and a
thought
sprained
I was
thigh,
good.
no other serious injuries. The FIA doctor Gary Hartstein reassured Sauber team manager Beat Zender, along with Sergio's dad, Antonio.
They're not half wrong, because millions of accidents later, Fernando Alonso is still in his 23rd season in Formula One.
He's almost older than me.
This
That's
one crash
crazy.
didn't just make him lucky to be racing, it made him lucky to have survived. This spectacular collision with Esteban Gutierrez's Haas was the only thing on everyone's minds back then. So, let's rewind. These two drivers were racing, and when Alonso steps on the gas, he accidentally steps on the rear of Esteban's Haas as well. And while the Haas slid across, I can't say the same for Alonso. This man turned Formula One into some air show for a while because his car took flight and rolled in the air for everyone to see. And in his point of view, he saw the sky, then the ground, then the sky, and it went on until it stopped. And when it stopped, Alonso, who was apparently more scared of what his mom would think, escaped from the little opening that he saw in the crash and walked away as if he didn't just suffer an almost fatal crash. And from the looks of what his car turned into, let's just say he's beyond lucky to have survived. And he's not alone when I say this, because it's a miracle that Joe Guan Yu can
That was
100%
his was
relate to.
crazy.
First of all,
Do you think there's any blame to be
Last season, that NC had was crazy.
I think we are racing, we are fighting. I took the slipstream as much as I could. In the last moment, I tried to move. I don't know if it was too late, my move as well, because, I wait for the last moment. Obviously, you see only the rear wing. You don't have the full vision of the track, so it's tough.
why is there no mercy for rookies? Like, it's Joe's first ever British Grand Prix in F1. And for everything that happened, it didn't leave any good memories for the Chinese. It's probably one of the most horrific high-speed crashes ever witnessed in the safety
That
of
was
modern cars.
crazy,
And you
man.
guessed it, the thing that saved Joe a trip to the underworld was the Halo.
Halo,
now,
yeah.
at turn one of the opening
Hey, shout out to the Halo. That Halo is probably one of the best things F1 has added for like the drivers, stuff like that. It's that extra safety for the cars, and then man, it's
lap, his Alfa Romeo was clipped by George Russell's Mercedes. And when there's contact, there's a crash. But this wasn't what any one of us expected.
That
Joe's
was a
car flipped
scary
over after the
crash.
first impact, and then crushed the roll
And I
hoop over the
think
driver's
we
head.
was live
so
for this
the
race as
only
well.
thing that repeatedly smashed against the gravel the car was sliding on was the Halo. And you may think that this is where the horror nightmare ends. But to Joe's dismay, his car didn't stop when it hit the barrier. The
Scary.
speed was so outrageously
Scary.
high that the car was launched into the catch fencing beyond it, and then was stuck in the narrow space between the barriers and the fence. And if you were watching, you probably had a close-up of his car because it was just a few feet away from the audience. And once struck, the Chinese was scared
Look
that
at
his car
that.
might pull a Grosjean and erupt into a fireball, so he switched off the engine until he was rescued. And if modern F1 cars could be given any more credit, this guy not just survived the crash, he was declared remarkably fit afterwards. It's absolutely wild.
I saw the race with a red flag, so I knew it was safe to jump out. I wanted to go and see if he was okay and if I could have helped in any way. When I came back, I couldn't get the car turned on, but I don't know, there was no reason why I shouldn't have been able to, because the car was fine. I ran back to the team to check, and when I came back, the car was on the flatbed already.
Speaking of injuries, this Spaniard was given special medical attention after his crash. And I'm talking about Carlos Sainz, who was airlifted to the hospital
Carlos Sainz.
after his crash on the Sochi track. So, back when he was still in the Toro Rosso, this guy escaped the grave thanks to all the marshals and the medical crews that were quickly on the scene, and then further fled the scene to get himself checked out for a scan. Like, obviously it was needed, because after all, he was found underneath the barrier in the qualifying of the Russian Grand Prix. So, after all those medical procedures, Sainz took it to Twitter to show everyone that he's A-okay. And while all of that ended on good terms, this next crash brewed the heat for their F1 rivalry. That's right, it's Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen's horror crash at that one Monza corner. So, in 2021, tensions were already quite high, but Verstappen's car was higher. It felt like Red Bull literally gave him wings as he tried to squeeze through a gap. But instead, his car launched into the air and landed on top of his fierce rival, Hamilton. Like literally, that Red Bull's tire was on Hamilton, and replays showed Verstappen's car bouncing off the halo. And the poor Briton couldn't do anything.
Imagine driving, right? Imagine driving, next thing you know, like somebody's car is just on top of your car. Obviously, something had to lead to that, but like still, like, you You looking up, it's a whole ass car on top
else
of
but
you.
duck and pray that it saves him.
Yeah.
And of course it did. But that doesn't cancel out the fact that another wrong move could have led to a tragic fate, to say the least. So, with all the new modern tech used in these cars, I'm glad to say that even though the 7-time champion was almost crushed by a car, all he got was a sore neck. And hopefully, the 2023 season gives us fewer jump scares to work with. But
That was I think Guan Yu's was probably the scariest one, just because that was so recent. Lando was pretty scared because it happened in the rain. Obviously, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz. That Guan Yu one is that's gonna stick with me for a minute, man, just because of just how it happened. Like my guy was gliding upside down, head against the wall. Anyway, man, hope you guys did enjoy the video. Don't forget to like the video and sub as well as always. Take care. Stay amazing. Love you guys and girls. Peace.